Hey y'all, my name's Brian Johnson. I'm one of the pastors at Williamsburg United Methodist Church, and this is our midweek video. And this week, I want to talk to you about Holy Week. There are a lot of upcoming opportunities to tell this story, to experience this story here at Williamsburg United Methodist Church. But first, I want to take a minute to talk about what Holy Week is. Holy Week is the week when we tell the story of the last week before the death of Jesus, and then what happens after. We tell the story of the suffering, the death, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Holy Week's already begun. We started on Palm Sunday as we told the story of Jesus entering in to Jerusalem as he was welcomed by the crowds, hailed as a liberator, as a hero, but quickly the crowds turned on him. During the week of Holy Week, we talk about one of the things that happened during Holy Week is Jesus driving out the folks from the temple who were selling things. He begins to make enemies that he probably had already made with some of the establishment, with the powerful folks in Jerusalem. And eventually, Jesus is betrayed by one of his closest friends. He's put through a show trial. He's denied by others of his followers who run away in his hour of need. He is beaten and tortured and executed on a cross. And then the story doesn't end there. That's what makes the story of Jesus different than all the other stories of suffering, because the story doesn't end with his death, but instead, God raises Jesus from the dead on the third day, on Sunday. During Holy Week, we tell this story that is a story both of darkness and of light that cannot be conquered by the darkness. We tell a story of hurt and pain and of the promise of resurrection that comes after that. Holy Week is a reminder that, in the words of Frederick Buechner, the worst thing is never the last thing, because after death comes resurrection. That's the story we tell during Holy Week. And we would love to invite you to experience Holy Week with us. There are a variety of opportunities here. As I said, on Thursday night, we have our Maundy Thursday worship service. Maundy is just from a Latin word, mandantum, which means commandment, because Jesus says on Maundy Thursday, I give a new commandment to you to love one another. So Maundy Thursday, Holy Thursday, we tell the story of the Last Supper that Jesus has with his disciples. It's the same day that Jesus washed his disciples' feet, but don't worry, we're not going to wash your feet. I know that's a little weird, but we're going to have a meal together. It's a potluck meal. We're going to tell the story of Jesus' Last Supper with his disciples. Then on Good Friday, we tell the story of the death of Jesus. We tell the story of when he was arrested and how he went on trial and ended up dying on the cross, mocked, tortured, alone, abandoned, and yet somehow God is at work through it. We're going to tell that on Friday night at 7 p.m. in our service of Scripture, Darkness, and Song. It's a scripture in the tradition, what's called a tenebrae service, which just means darkness. That's a long-standing Christian tradition. We're going to do that at 7 p.m. on Good Friday. And then on Easter Sunday, we're going to tell the story of how even death cannot defeat God's great love for us, of how God would rather die than give up on us, but that death doesn't get the last word, because life comes afterwards, because God raises Jesus from the dead and promises that as Jesus has been raised, so too we shall be raised, so too the whole world shall be made new. We have worship at 6:30 a.m. on Easter Sunday, our sunrise service outdoors. We have traditional worship in our sanctuary at 8 o'clock. That's a time change from our normal 8:15, so pay attention, at 8 o'clock and at 11 o'clock in our sanctuary. We also have our modern worship service outside on our front lawn at 9:30. Lots of opportunities to encounter the good news of the risen Lord. There'll be communion at all 4 of our Easter Sunday worship services, and we're excited to celebrate the good news of our risen Lord, the good news that life conquers death, that hope conquers hopelessness, that God's love cannot be stopped. That's the story we're telling this week. We really hope that you'll participate with us in person or online. We hope that you'll join us in celebrating the resurrection. This is the story that changes everything. This is the story that reminds us that God is present in the worst of the worst, but the worst of the worst doesn't get the last say, that God takes our worst and uses it to give us God's very best. Hope you'll worship with us, because the good news is that Christ has died for us, and Christ has been raised for us, and therefore we have hope. Peace. You are loved.